Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuhu. Inshallah, in today's video, you are going to learn Madani Qaida lesson number 21. Let's start from the rules. Lesson number 21. Waqf, pause. Waqf. The meaning of waqf is to pause, stop. That is, at whichever word waqf is to be done, and the voice as well as the breath on the last letter of that particular word. Dear viewers, when you stop the sound and end your breath at the end of a word, it is called waqf. It is called pause. Next rule. If a zabar, zer, pesh, two zer or two pesh, khada zer or ulta pesh comes on the last letter of the word, then make that last letter sakin when doing waqf. Dear viewers, if you see these things, if you see zabar, zer, pesh, two zer, two pesh, khada zer, ulta pesh on the last letter of a word and you want to do waqf there, so you have to change these things with jazm. Like you have to change zabar with jazm, you have to change zer with jazm, you have to change pesh with jazm, you have to change to zer with jazm in case of waqf. For example, look at the first box in first line. You can see the last letter of this word is noon, and noon has zabar on it, so you have to change zabar with jazm in case of waqf. Like this, sadiqina, आगे वक्फ sadiqin. In the same way, you have to change pesh with jazm, you have to change to zer with jazm, you have to change ulta pesh with jazm, and all this stuff with jazm in case of waqf. Next rule. If two zabar comes on the last letter of the word, then pronounce it as alif when doing waqf. So dear viewers, if you see two zabar on the last letter of a word and you want to do waqf, you want to read that word with waqf, so you have to change two zabar with alif. For example, look at the third line and fourth box. The last letter of this word is fa, and fa has two zabar on it, so you have to change two zabar with alif in case of waqf. Like this, al fa fan in case of waqf, al fa fa. Next rule. If the last letter of the word is a round ta, that is round ta, then no matter which harka it has on it, pronounce it as a ha sakin when doing waqf. Dear viewers, if you see round ta at the end of a word and you want to read that word with waqf, you will change round ta with ha sakin. For example, look at the first box in first line. You can see the last letter of this word is round ta, which has two zabar on it. So you have to change this round ta with ha sakin in case of waqf. Whether it has two zabar on it, two zer on below it, two pesh on it, you have to change round ta with ha sakin. Like this, quwwatan in case of waqf, quwwah. Next rule. When doing waqf, khada zabar, the letters of madda and sakin letter are not changed. So dear viewers, if you see the last letter of a word has khada zabar on it, do not change khada zabar in case of waqf. If you see the last letter has jazm on it, do not change in case of waqf. And if you see the last letter is alif madda, waw madda or ya madda, then do not change in case of waqf. For example, look at the last box in first line. You can see the last letter of this word is dod, and dod has khada zabar on it. So you have to read khada zabar as it is even in case of waqf. Like this, fatar do, in case of waqf, fatar do, do not change. And in the same way, look at the first box in line 2. The last letter of this word is ra, and ra has jazm on it. You have to read jazm as it is in case of waqf. Like this, one har, in case of waqf, one har. Do not change jazm with anything. In the same way, look at the fourth box in the same line, I mean line 2. The last letter of this word is alif madda. So alif madda will remain as it is even in case of waqf. Like fiha, in case of waqf, fiha. Similarly, look at the next box. The last letter is waw madda. So waw madda will remain as it is. Tahtadu, in case of waqf, tahtadu. In the next word, the last letter is ya madda. So you have to read ya madda as it is. Do not change in case of waqf. Qawli, in case of waqf, qawli. Next rule. In the case of waqf on a mushaddad letter, the tashdid will remain, but the harka will not be made apparent in the recitation. So dear viewers, if you see tashdid on the last letter of a word and you want to read that word with waqf, then do not change tashdid, but you have to remove harka. You have to remove zaba, zir or pesh, whatever that letter has on it, remove it, but do not remove tashdid. For example, look at the last box in first line. The last letter of this word is qaf. Qaf has tashdid on it and zir below it. So in case of waqf, you have to remove the zir, but do not remove tashdid. And read like this, bil haqqi, in case of waqf, bil haqq. Next rule. Noon qutni. When a hamza wasli comes after tanween, the hamza wasli is dropped in the case of wasl without pausing, and the noon sakin of tanween is given a zir and a small noon is shown with it. This noon is called noon qutni. Dear viewers, look at the first box in last line. You can see a small noon in this box. This small noon is called noon qutni. You read this noon qutni when you are reading the words without waqf, and when you read the words with waqf, you will not read noon qutni. Like this, khayranil wasiyatu, in case of waqf, khayra al wasiyatu. Next, signs of waqf pause. Some of the signs of waqf are described below. A. 0. This is the sign of waqf tam and indicates the completion of a Quranic ayah. One should pause here. Dear viewers, when you see a circle sign in the Holy Quran, so you have to do waqf, you have to apply the rule of waqf. B. Meme. This is the sign of waqf lazim. One must pause here. When you see a small meme in the Holy Quran, you have to apply the rule of waqf. And to. This is the sign of waqf mutlaq. It is better to pause here. So when you see a small to in the Holy Quran in the middle of an ayah, it is better for you to apply the rule of waqf. Jim. This is the sign of waqf jaiz. It is better to pause here, but it is also permissible to carry on. So when you see a small jim in the middle of an ayah in the Holy Quran, you have to apply the rule of waqf. It is better for you. But if you don't apply the rule of waqf, it is permissible, but better to pause, better to apply the rule of waqf. Za. This is the sign of waqf mujawwaz. It is permissible to pause here, but it is better to avoid pause at it. So when you see a small za, the sign of waqf, do not do waqf. Read without waqf. Sod. This is the sign of waqf murakhas. One should not pause here. When you see a small sod as the sign of waqf, then do not apply the rule of waqf. Carry on reading without doing waqf. Next, lam alif. If the lam alif sign is present above the sign of an ayah, that is circle, and then on top of it lam alif, there is a difference of opinion whether to pause or not. If a lam alif comes without the sign of ayah, then do not pause. Dear viewers, when you see a small lam alif on the top of circle at the end of an ayah, then there is a difference of opinion. Some scholars say it is better to pause, some say do not do waqf here. But if you see lam alif sign in the middle of an ayah, then do not do waqf. Do not apply the rule of waqf. Carry on reading without doing waqf. Next and the last rule of this lesson, i'ada, repetition. After doing waqf, pausing, reciting while joining the preceding text is called i'ada. Dear viewers, in fact, you are supposed to read an ayat of the Holy Quran up to the sign of waqf in one breath. But if you want to take breath in the middle of an ayah and there is no sign of waqf, but even then you want to take the breath, then apply the rule of waqf on that last word and then take the breath and repeat the word where you did waqf. Repeat that word and carry on reading the next words up to the sign of waqf. And this repetition is called i'ada. Inshallah, in the next video you will start learning from line 1 of lesson number 21.